Hello friend, welcome back to the AWS Solution Architect Associate Part 2. So in EC2 standard reserved instance, commitment is in a reason. I reserve an EC2 instance with a specific platform. For example, Linux has specific instance type. For example, T2.micro for a term of 1 year or 3 year. You can switch to other instance size within the same instance family, T2 large to T2 extra large. You can switch availability zones. You cannot change instance families, operating systems, or tenancy, default or dedicated. EC2 convertible reserved instances. Commitment in a reason. I reserve an EC2 instance for a term of 1 year or 3 year. You can change instance families, operating systems, or tenancies, default or dedicated. You can switch availability zones and instance size. EC2 scheduled reserved instances. Commitment in a reason. I reserve an EC2 instance part-time for a year, X hours every month, per week, per day at a specific time. Restriction only available for a few instance type. Example C3, C4, M4, R3 in a few regions. Example US East North Virginia, US West Oregon, Europe Ireland. Use cases: bills are generated on first day of the month. A batch program runs for a few hours every day. Weekend batch program runs for a few hours every week. EC2 reserve instance summary: standard commit for a EC2 platform and instance family for 1 year or 3 years, up to 75% off. Convertible standard plus flexibility to change EC2 platform and instance family up to 54% off. Scheduled reserve for specific time period in a day, 5% to 10% off. You can sell reserved instances on the AWS Reserve Instance Marketplace if you do not want to use your reservation. EC2 compute saving plans. Commitment: I would spend X dollar per hour on AWS compute resources. Amazon EC2 instances, AWS Fragate or AWS Lambda for a 1 or 3 years period, up to 66% off compared to the on-demand instances. Provides complete flexibility. You can change instance family, size, OS, tenancy, or AWS region of your Amazon EC2 instances. You can switch between Amazon EC2, AWS Fragate, and or AWS Lambda. EC2 instance saving plans. Commitment: I would spend X dollar per hour on Amazon EC2 instance of a specific instance family, general purpose, for example, within a specific region, US East 1, for example, up to 72% off compared to on-demand instances. You can switch operating system window to Linux, for example. EC2 pricing models overview. Pricing model: use cases: on-demand, spiky workloads, spot, cost insensitive, fault tolerance, non-immediate workloads, reserved, constant workload that run all time, saving plan, constant workload that run all the time. You want more flexibility. Monitoring: EC2 Amazon CloudWatch is used to monitor EC2 instance. Basic monitoring every 5 minutes provided for all EC2 instance type. EC2 detail monitoring can be enabled for detail metrics every 1 minute. Monitoring EC2 instance matrices. EC2 system level matrices, CPU, disk, network are tracked by CloudWatch. CPU utilization, network in and out, disk reads and writes, CPU credit uses, and balance. EC2 instance CloudWatch. CloudWatch does not have access to operating system matrices like memory consumptions. You can provide those matrices to CloudWatch. Install CloudWatch agent to send OS matrices to CloudWatch. Use CloudWatch collected plugin. So CloudWatch cannot have an operating system like memory consumption, but it can have a CPU, disk, and network. Okay. Elastic Load Balancer. Using HTTPS secures the communication on the internet. To use HTTPS, install SSL or TLS certificate on the server. In AWS, SSL certificates can be managed using AWS Certificates Manager. Elastic Load Balancer 2 communication hub. Client ELB EC2 instance, client to ELB over the internet. HTTPS recommended. ELB requires X.509 certificates, SSL or TLS server certificates. ELB to EC2 instances through AWS internal network. HTTP is okay. HTTPS is preferred. Then Elastic Load Balancer SSL TLS termination application / classic load balancer SSL termination, client to ELB HTTPS, ELB to EC2 instant HTTP. Network load balancer TLS termination, client to ELB TLS, ELB to EC2 instance TCP. Server name indication. So you have a client, you have SNI, you have a Elastic Load Balancing, www.app1.com EC2, www.app2.com. Okay. ELB can provide load balancing for multiple target groups. Each of these Targets can be separate websites with different SSL or TLS certificates. Each listener can be associated with multiple SSL certificates, one for each website to enable this. Server name indication is automatically enabled when multiple SSL certificates are associated with a listener. Server name location is an extension to TLS protocol. Client indicates the host name being contacted at the start of interaction. Elastic Load Balancer locks and header. You can enable access locks on ELB to capture time request was received, client IP address, latencies, request path, and server response. Network Load Balancer allows the EC2 instance to see the client details. However, Application Load Balancer does not. Client details are in request header. X forwarded for client IP address, X forwarded for originating protocol, HTTP, HTTPS, X forwarded port, originating port. ELB versus NLB versus CLB1. So version is application load balancer, network load balancer, classical load balancer, version new V2, old V1. Use cases, web apps, microservices and container, network load balancer, extreme performance, billions of requests with less latency, avoid if possible not recommended by AWS, protocol supported, HTTP, HTTPS layer 7, TCP, UDP, TLS layer 4, TCP, SSL, TLS, HTTP, HTTPS layer 4 and 7, connection draining. Okay, dynamic host port mapping. Connection draining is not for network load balancer. Dynamic host port mapping is for network load balancer and application. This thing. Cross zone load balancing always enabled. Disabled, default disabled. Sticky sessions is yes for, and then classical load balancer. No server name indication is yes for ALB. NLB yes. Static IP is yes. Elastic IP address is yes. Preserve source IP address is yes. WebSocket is yes. Routing IP address as target yes. Source IP range based routing yes. Path based routing application load balancer yes. Host based yes. Fixed response is yes. Lambda functions as target is yes. HTTP header based routing is yes. HTTP method based routing is yes. Query string parameter based routing is yes. Important load balancer scenario you can review. You want to maintain sticky session, enable stickiness on ELB, cookie name AWS ELB. You want to distribute load only to healthy instances. Configure health check. Health check can be a ping, connections, or web page request. You can configure interval, max wait time, threshold for number of failures. An instance can be in service or out of service. Distribute load among two availability zone in same region. Enable cross zone load balancing. How to ensure that in-flight requests to unhealthy instances are given an opportunity to complete execution. Enable connection draining 1 to 36 seconds. Okay. Give warm-up time to EC2 instance before they start receiving load from ELB. Configure health check grace period. Protect ELB from web attacks, SQL injection or cross-site scripting. Integrate with AWS WAF, which is like web application firewall. Protect web application from DOS attack. Application load balancer protects you from common DOS attacks like SYN floats or UDP reflection attacks. Okay. Architecture consideration for EC2 and ALB security. Use security group to restrict traffic. Place EC2 instance in private subnets. Use dedicated host when you have a regulatory needs. Performance. Choose right instance family. Optimize combination of compute, memory, disk and networking. Use appropriate placement groups. Prefer creating a custom EMI to installing software using user data. Choose the right ELB for your use case. Prefer network load balancer for high performance. Load balancing. Cost efficiency. Have optimal number and type of EC2 instances running. Use the right mix of saving plans, reserve instances, on-demand instances, spot instances. Resiliency. Configure the right health check. Use CloudWatch for monitoring. Disaster recovery up to date. AMI copy to multiple regions. References. Application load balancer health check setting goal. Route traffic to healthy instances only. Periodic requests are sent to target to test their status. Important settings. Health check protocol. Which protocol? Health check port. Which port? Health check part. Destination part. Default is / health check timeout seconds. Maximum wait time. Health check interval seconds. How often should a health check be performed? Healthy threshold count. How many health check success before making instances healthy? Unhealthy threshold count. How many health check failure before making instances unhealthy? Elastic load balancer terminology. Connection draining. Before an instance is terminated, requests in executions are given to complete. Registration underscore delay is equal to dot timeout underscore second. Dynamic host port mapping. Useful with containers. Two instances of the same task can be running on the same ECS container instances. Cross zone load balancing. Distribute load between available instances in multiple availability zones in one region. Sticky sessions send requests from same user to same instance. Cookies with configurable expiration. Stickiness duration default 1 day. Preserve source IP address allow instance to know where the request is coming from. WebSocket allows full duplex communication over a single TCP connection. Source IP range based routing redirect to different target based on the source CID or block. Path based routing send traffic to different target based on the path of the request. Query string parameter based writing slash user question mark target is equal to target 1 versus slash user target 2 is equal to target 2. Server name indications support multiple websites with different SSL certificates with one load balancer. AWS managed service infrastructure as a service. Use only structure from cloud provider, always call lift and shift. Example, using EC2 to deploy your applications or database. You are responsible for application code and runtime, configuring load balancing, auto scaling, OS upgrade and patches, availability. Application runtime, OS virtualization, physical hardware, networking. Platform as a service. Use a platform provided by cloud. Cloud provider is responsible for OS including upgrade and patches, application runtime, auto scaling, availability and load balancing. You are responsible for application code configuration. CAS is like container as a service, containers instead of applications. Fast function as a service or serverless function instead of applications. AWS managed service offering ELB, ECS, Amazon RDS. ELB stands for Elastic Load Balancing, distribute incoming traffic across multiple targets. AWS Elastic Beanstalk is AEB, run and manage web app. Amazon Elastic Container Service ECC, container orchestration on AWS. AWS Frigate serverless compute for containers. Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, EKS run Kubernetes on AWS, Amazon RDS, relational database, MySQL, Oracle SQL Server, etc. and a lot more. AWS Beanstalk, simplest way to deploy and scale your web application in AWS, provides end-to-end web application management, supports Java, .NET, Node.js, PHP, Ruby, Python, Go and Docker applications. No usage charges, pay only for AWS resources you provision, features, automatic load balancing, auto scaling, managed platform updates, application health monitoring. AWS Elastic Beanstalk demo. Deploy an application to cloud using AWS Elastic Beanstalk. So AWS Elastic Beanstalk concepts: application, a container for environment version and configuration. Application version, a specific version of deployable code stored in S3. Environment, an application version deployed to AWS resources. You can have multiple environments running different application version for the same application. Environment tier, for batch application use worker tier, for web application use web server tier. AWS Elastic Beanstalk, remember, you retain full control over AWS resource created, ideal for simple web application, not ideal for microservices architecture. You can access server's log without logging into the server. Logs can be stored in Amazon S3 or in CloudWatch logs. You can choose to apply patches and platform updates automatically. Matrices are sent to Amazon CloudWatch. You can configure SNS notification based on health. Delete your environment. Containers and container orchestration. Microservice, customer service, review service, booking service, fare calculation service. You have a DB1, DB2, DB3, DB4, DB5. Enterprise are heading towards microservices architecture. Build small focused microservices. Flexibility to innovate and build application in different programming language, Go, Java, Python, JavaScript, etc. But deployments become complex. How can we have one way of deploying Go, Java, Python or Java microservice? Enter containers. Create Docker image for each microservice. Docker image contains everything a microservice need to run: application runtime, JDK or Python or Node.js, application code, dependencies. You can run these Docker containers the same way on any infrastructure, your local machine, corporate data center, cloud. So container 1, container 2, container 3, Docker engines, host as cloud infrastructure. Docker advantage: Docker containers are lightweight compared to virtual machine. Docker provides isolation for container. Docker is cloud neutral. New challenge: how do you manage thousands of containers belonging to multiple microservices? Enter container orchestration. Container orchestration: I want 10 instances of microservice. A container, 15 is a microservice, B container, and so container image configuration, container orchestration, cluster, virtual server 1, virtual server 2, virtual server 3. Typical features: auto scaling, scale container based on demand. Service discovery, help microservices find one container. Load balancer, distribute load among multiple instances of a microservice. Self-healing, do health check and replace failing instances. Zero downtime, release new version without downtime. Cloud neutral, Kubernetes, AWS service. AWS Elastic Kubernetes Service, EKS does not have a free tier. AWS specific, AWS Elastic Container Service ECS, AWS Frigate, serverless version of AWS ECS. AWS Frigate does not have a free tier. Amazon Elastic Cloud Container, fully managed service for container orchestration, serverless option, AWS Frigate, use cases, microservices, architectures, create containers for your microservices and orchestra them using ECS or Frigate, batch processing, run batch workloads on ECS using AWS Batch Demo. Amazon ECS task definition, container definition, task definition, service cluster. Container definition, what is the image you want to use? What resources does the container use? Memory, CPU, and ports. Task role optional. If you need access to AWS services, Amazon RDS extractor, task execution IAM role provides permission to pull container images and publish container log to Amazon CloudWatch. Amazon ECS terminology service allows you to run and maintain a specified number of tasks. ECS cluster, grouping of one or more container instances, EC2 instances where you run your task. For AWS Frigate serverless ECS, you do not need to worry about EC2 instance. Amazon Elastic Container Service, remember, container instance, EC2 instance in the cluster running a container agent helps it communicate with the cluster. AWS provide ECS ready AMIs with container agents pre-installed. AWS does not give you visibility into the EC2 instance in the cluster. You can use on-demand instances or spot instances to create your cluster. You can load balance using application load balancer. Two features of ALVs are important for ECS: dynamic host port mapping, multiple tasks from the same servers are allowed per EC2 instance. Path-based routing, multiple services can use the same listener port on same ALV and be routed based on the path. Okay, delete the cluster. Okay. Running Docker container in AWS Elastic Beanstalk, single container or multiple container in the same EC2 instance, recommended for simple web application. Amazon ECS, AWS specific solution for container orchestration, ideal for microservices. Amazon Frigate, serverless version of Amazon ECS. You want to run microservices and you don't want to manage the cluster. Amazon EKS, AWS managed services for Kubernetes, recommended if you are already using Kubernetes and would want to move the workload to AWS. Amazon ECR, Elastic Container Registry. You have created Docker images for your microservices. Where do you store them? You need a container registry. Amazon ECR is a fully managed Docker container registry provided by AWS Docker Hub. Additional resources: Docker, you can go Kubernetes, you can Glue, AWS Frigate, and ECS. Serverless fundamentals, Lambda and API gateway. So AWS Lambda App Function, API Gateway. What are the things we think about when we develop an application? Where do we deploy the application? What kind of the server? What OS? How do we take care of scaling the application? How do we ensure that it is always available? What if we do not need to worry about servers and focus on building our application? Enter serverless. Remember, serverless does not mean no server. Serverless for me is you do not worry about infrastructure, flexible scaling, automated high availability. Pay for use. You do not have to provision server for all capacity. You focus on code and the cloud managed service take care of all that is needed to scale your code to serve millions of requests. AWS Lambda function world. Before Lambda ELV with EC2 servers, you do not worry about servers or scaling or availability. You only worry about your code. You pay for what you use, number of requests, duration of request, memory consumed. AWS Lambda supported language: Java, Go, PowerShell, Node.js, C has Python, Ruby, and a lot more. AWS Lambda event sources, Amazon API Gateway, AWS Cognito, Amazon DynamoDB, Amazon CloudFront, Lambda at Edge, AWS Step Functions, Amazon Kinesis, Amazon Simple Storage Service, Amazon Simple Queue Service, Amazon Simple Notification Service. The list is endless. AWS get our hand dirty. AWS Lambda function stateless, store data to Amazon S3 or Amazon DynamoDB, 5500 MB of non-persistent disk space / temp directory, allocate memory in 64 MB increments from 128 MB to 3 GB. Lambda cost increases with memory, CPU power increases with memory allocation, inexpensive. Free tier 1M free request per month. Monitor function execution through Amazon CloudWatch. Maximum allowed time for Lambda execution is 900 seconds. Default is 3 seconds. Integrate with AWS Thread Tracing, AWS CloudWatch. Monitoring and log. REST API challenge. User API gateway landmarks. Most applications today are built around REST API. Management of REST API is not easy. You have taken care of authentication and authorization. You have to be able to set limits, so right, limiting quota for your API consumer. You have to take care of implementing multiple versions of your API. You would want to monitor your API. You want to be able to cache API request. Amazon API Gateway, user API Gateway led function. How about fully managed service with auto scaling that can act as a front door to your API? Welcome to Amazon API Gateway. Publish, maintain, monitor, and secure API at any scale. Integrate with AWS Lambda, Amazon EC2, Amazon ECS, or any web application. Supports HTTPS and web sockets. Two-way communication, chat apps, and streaming dashboards. Serverless pay for use. API calls and connection duration. API lifecycle management for RESTful APIs and WebSocket APIs. Run multiple versions of the same API. Rate limits, request quota limits, throttling and fine-grained access. Provision using API keys for third-party developers. Authorization integration with AWS IAM for AWS users using signature version 4. Amazon Cognito Lambda authorizer, custom authorization with JWT tokens or SMEL. Virtual private cloud fundamentals. In a corporate network or on-premise data center, can anyone on the internet see the data exchange between the application and the database? No. Can anyone from the internet directly connect to your database? Or typically no. You need to connect to your corporate network and then access your application or databases. Corporate network provides a secure internal network, protecting your resources, data, and communication from external use. How do you create your own private virtual network in the cloud? Enter Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, your own isolated network in the AWS cloud. Network traffic within a VPC is isolated, not visual from all other Amazon VPC. You control all the traffic coming in and going outside a VPC. Best practices: create all your AWS resources, compute, storage, database, etc. within a VPC. Secure data resources from authorized access and enable secure communication between your cloud resources. So user is elastic load balancing, EC2 instance, database. Different resources are created on cloud, database, compute, etc. Each type of resources has its own access needs. Public elastic load balancers are accessible from internet. Database or EC2 instance should not be accessible from internet. Only application within your network should be able to access them. Private resources. How do you separate public resources from the private resources inside a VPC? Solution: create a different subnet for public and private resources. Resources in a public subnet can be accessed from internet. Resources in a private subnet cannot be accessed from internet, but resources in a public subnet can talk to resources in the private subnet. Each VP is created in a region. Each subnet is created in a availability zone. Example: VPC used US East 1 subnet availability zone US East 1 or US 1B or this thing. Okay. Addressing for resources. How do you identify your resource on network? Public internet or private internet. Each resource has an IP address. There are two IP address formats: IPv4, Internet Protocol version 4, numeric 32-bit. Example: 127.25.25.25. IPv6, Internet Protocol version 6, alpha numeric 128-bit. Example: 201. IPv4 allows a total of 4.3 billion addresses. We are running out of IPv4 address space. IPv6 introduced an extension. While IPv4 and IPv6 are supported on AWS, IPv4 is the most popularly used address format within a AWS VPC. Classless inter-domain routing block. Typically, resources in the same network use similar IP address to make routing easy. Example: resources inside a specific network can use IP address from 69.208.0.0 to 69.208.0.15. How do you express a range of address that resources network can have? CIDR block. A CIDR block, classless inter-domain routing block, consists of a starting IP address 69.20 and range /28. Example: CIDR blocks represent address from 69.208.0 to 69.0, a total of 16 address. Quick tip: 69 indicates the first 28 bits out of 32 are fixed. First /28, first 28 bits out of 32 are fixed. Last 4 bits can change. 2 to the power 4 is equal to 16 address. Okay. So that's what. Okay. If I say /25, so 25 are fixed. Now, so you have a 4. So 2 to the power 7 address I can go. How to identify resources on a network? Public. Okay. CDIR exercise. CDIR 24 start range is this. Total address is 256. 24 total address is 128 2 to the power 7. And okay, now I got the point. Okay, how many address does 620 represent? So 32 minus 26 is like 8. Correct? 4 6 sorry 6. So if you go to the 2 6 is 2 to the 4, 4 to the 8, 8 to the 16, 16 to the 32, and that's 64. Okay, 2 to the power 32 minus 26 is equal to 664. Address from this to 63. 1 is fixed for internal uses. 32 to the 4. So if I do this, I go from 208 to 3. What is the difference? Represent all IP address. Okay, represent just one IP address. Okay. Okay, CIDA block example, secure duration, direction inbound, outbound, protocol, TCP, port range is 443, then 28. So destination is 1, CDR is 16, and this is 32. Outbound is 0. Allow HTTP TCP 443 request from a range of address 172.31/16. Allow SSH TCP 22 from a single IP address. Allows all outbound communication, all other inbound and when denied. CDAT demo. Okay. Each VPC is associated with a CDR block. CDR block of VPC can be from /16 to /20. VPC with block CDR block this to, okay, this VPC with CDR block this to this. Okay, example 1, VPC with CIDR block 69.208/.0.0/24 to 69.208/0.02. So if this is the CDR block, I can have an IP address from 69.208/0.2/0.25. If I'm on 16, I can still go to 25.25. Choosing a CDR block for VPC. Be careful while choosing a CDR block. Choose a wider range than you should note. There cannot be an overlap of a VPC tier within any other connected network. All addresses inside a VPC tier range are private addresses. Cannot route to providers from internet. Assign and use public IP address to communicate with VPC resources from internet. Choosing a CDR block for subnet. Subnet provides a grouping for resources inside a VPC. The CDR block of a subnet must be a subset or the same as the CDR block for the VPC. Minimum subnet range is /28, 16 addresses. In each subnet, 5 IP address. First 4 and the last are reserved by AWS. First 4 and the last. Every new AWS account has a default VPC in every region with a public subnet of in every availability zone. Remember, address range of VPC can be extended. Add new CDR block. Remember, address range of subnet cannot be changed. Okay. So VPC and subnet demo, AWS, you have a AWS account, then you have in your region US, you have a new VPC. In that you have a subnet 1 and a subnet 2 application. You are in a region AP South. In the same AWS, you have a VPC, subnet 1 and subnet 2 and so public subnet, internet gateway, internet, communication allowed from subnet to internet, communication allowed from internet to subnet. Routing on the internet, you have an IP address of a website you want to visit. There is no direct connection from your computer to the website. Internet is actually a set of routers routing traffic. Each router has a set of rules that help it decide the path to the destination. IP address, you have a client, you have a router 1, router 2 and router 3, and then here it goes to the server. Okay, routing inside AWS. So we will look into this in the next video. So thanks for your time today.